All the name calling, the N-word, I heard it all.
He got death threats. You're playing the white man's game.
This is a small snippet of the documentary film Soul on Ice. It takes a look at the history of black athletes in hockey. The film plays today at the Toronto Black Film Festival. And for more on this often overlooked chapter in Canadian history, we are joined by the director of Soul on Ice, Kwame Mason. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about the inspiration of this film. What was behind it?
Yeah, well, the inspiration for me was, I grew up in Toronto, always been a fan of hockey, always been a fan of history, and I felt that there was something missing. I felt that there was a need to show these children that the history of black athletes in hockey didn't start with PK Subban. And when I was living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, I was fortunate to be around a lot of the hockey players there. And it came to me, I was like, how come there's still not a lot of black athletes playing? And then I learned about the Colored Hockey League of Nova Scotia, which was around in the 1800s. And when I found out that information, I thought to myself, well, if I don't know this, how many other people don't know it? So I vowed to myself that one day I would go for it and make a documentary, and so here we are today.
And usually when you're making a documentary, you learn so much, right? So what was the takeaway for you? What did you find?
The biggest one for me was basically the Colored Hockey League of Nova Scotia, because here's a league that was around between 1895 and 1930. Black American slaves came down to Canada, and one of the places they went to was in Nova Scotia, and they wanted to blend in with what everybody was doing in the country, which was hockey. And because they couldn't play with the white athletes, they figured they would start a league of their own. Now, this is the first organized league in all of North America for blacks that, gave money to their players, that had entertainment, and they had a lot of innovations like the butterfly style of goaltending and the slap shot. These are things that were created and used during the time of the Colored Hockey League that we see in hockey today.
Yeah, and it must, it makes any Canadian uncomfortable to hear that they weren't even allowed to play with everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I know racism isn't the theme of your documentary, but you do find that in your research, right?
Yeah, of course. You have to talk about what has happened in the times when guys were playing. Like, there was a guy by the name of Tony McKegney who was going to play for the World Hockey Association, which was competing with the NHL, and he was signed to Birmingham. He literally had a contract signed, but the season ticket holders there found out that he was black and refused to renew their tickets, and they said, no, we're not gonna have this. And then you've got guys like Mike Marzin, who played in Washington, D.C., and who got death threats. So just imagine preparing to play a hockey game and the FBI is in the stadium saying, hey, there's a possibility somebody might be here to do you harm. So we talk a little bit about that, but the main thing when I talk about the racism there is I want to show that the guys who played in those times, they persevered through adversity, and that's the biggest lesson about racism and bigotry or anything like that is, do you let it hold you back, or do you fight through it? And that's what a lot of these black athletes did.
Yeah, lots of bravery
Yes.
for these athletes, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And this is Black History Month. It's a time to celebrate the achievements and history of the African and Caribbean descent. So what are you hoping people will take away from this documentary?
It's very simple. I just want people to get some education and to be inspired. I mean, this is our sport. This is a great game, and we're a very multicultural country. And I think if you represent the game of hockey, you have to represent all of the game of hockey and all of its history. And black athletes are a big part of that.
And it's so important to have this conversation continually, not just in February, right?
Well, that's my thing. I mean, Black History Month is Black History Month. I'm not a big fan of it because I feel our history, everybody's history, should be 24/7, 365. Like I said, when I grew up, I never knew anything about the Colored Hockey League, and I don't want to just wait for 1 month. Because what are you saying? That soon as March 1st comes, it's, oh, well, sorry, you just missed me by a day.
Yeah,
and I don't want
I can't
that.
tell you about this now.
Yeah, exactly.
But hopefully your doc is played throughout the year then. What are you hearing from people already who have seen it?
Well, I've got, I'm pleasantly surprised. I was in Washington, D.C. with Ted Leonis, the owner of the Washington Capitals, as well as Gary Bettman, and they put on my show, and it's been really great. So now I'm just hoping for a broadcaster, hi CBC, to maybe come and say, hey, listen, we want to take this and we want to play it on our network and show the whole nation and show all of North America what we contribute to this great game. Oh, and I know you're going to let me go soon, so I wanted to make sure that I gave you this T-shirt.
Oh,
Okay?
Really?
So when you're working out and
Well,
stuff
you're
like that.
buying my vote right now, Kwame. I see what you're doing here. I'm not allowed to take gifts, but I'm going to rock this T-shirt.
You got it.
I'm
You're
not gonna
taking
lie.
that.
That's great.
Kind of cool, eh?
That's great. Soul on Ice. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you for
coming
having me.
in.
I
And all the
appreciate
best
you
at the
guys.
festival.
Okay, today at 1 p.m. at the Carlton Cinema. So if you're out there and you want to go see a great movie, come and check us out.
Great. 1 p.m. Eastern here in Toronto. Kwame Mason, the director of Soul on Ice, joining us here in studio.